Yeah, the Buddha did not only give Dhamma talks about meditation, but also some Dhamma talks about social interaction. For example, how can you make friends with many people, or how can you create and sustain a large following of people? And so, I mean more like real life friends, less social media. So, at one time, a lay disciple of the Buddha, Hatthaka from Alavi, is visiting the Buddha with a large group of several hundred lay people. Does anyone know Hatthaka from Alavi? Probably not. It's very unknown usually. So Hatthaka, he's one of the two foremost male lay disciples of the Buddha. The Buddha says if a male lay disciple, has faith, then he should aspire, may I become like householder Chitta or Hatthaka. So these are the foremost two male lay disciples of the Buddha. Similar, like for example for the monks, Venerable Sariputta, Venerable Mammoggallana, or the two women lay disciples which are foremost, then Kujottara or Nandamata. So Hatthaka is approaching the Buddha with a large group of lay people, pays respect to the Buddha, and sits down. And then the Buddha asks him, your following is large, Hatthaka. How do you sustain this large following, this large group of people? And then he answers by the four bases for attracting and sustaining a large following. These four qualities are called in Pali Saṅgaha-vatthu. Different translators translate them quite differently. Some call them the grounds for popularity or grounds for communal harmony. The Pali word Saṅgaha means collecting, gathering, or accumulating, and Vatthu means ground or basis. And if you look at the context of what this Pali word is used for and means, then I think the best description is the four bases for attracting and sustaining a large following. So you could say these are four qualities that bonds people together in unity. And so maybe yes, for example, exactly these ones. So then Hatthaka says he sustains this large following by these four Saṅgaha-vatthu, these four qualities. And he says when he knows this one can be sustained by generosity or included by generosity, then he includes him by practicing generosity. Or if it can be sustained, included by endearing speech, then he sustains and includes him by endearing speech. And if he knows this person can be sustained and included by beneficial conduct, then he includes him with beneficial conduct. And if he can sustain and include him by being similar, then he includes him by being similar. And so these four qualities. You can see that practicing the Dhamma it doesn't only, practicing the Dhamma not only is good for developing internal qualities, but also facilitates group harmony or sustaining cohesion in a large group. And so these 4 qualities can be applied to on different levels, like in your family, or with friends, or neighbors, or the whole country, or the whole world. I could say that these qualities play a role in any functional, mature relationship with other people. And knowing that, you can deliberately develop these qualities. These 4 qualities are much less mentioned or talked about than the 4 Brahma Viharas, like loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity. But I think in general daily life, these 4 Saṅgaha-vatthu's are maybe easier to develop because it's something that you can actively do, where the 4 Brahma Viharas are mind states or qualities of the heart. So if someone already has developed strong loving kindness, metta for example, then this person will just radiate this aura of loving kindness, whether he's talking or whether he's sitting or standing or doing something. But for most of us, it's easier if we can do something specific externally. So more about these 4 qualities in detail. The first one is in Pali called dāna, so generosity or giving. And this can be material generosity or generosity of the Dhamma, or the gift of fearlessness. And with regard to material generosity, the Buddha says also that someone who is generous is liked by many people and has a good reputation. So with this for basis for a large following, if you imagine a group where people, that just everyone tries to get as much as possible for himself, then it's very unpleasant to live in a group like that. If you imagine, let's say, maybe a group of school kids or a workplace, and then everyone just trying to get as much as possible for himself, it's actually not a nice environment to live in, and you wouldn't like to stay there and associate with these people. And also this group of people will not stay a group for a long time, because then it's just individuals fighting for their own advantage. And so an example with, say, in one discourse the Buddha mentions that some of a group of people, the government, the Lichavis from Vesali, they gather in harmony and they conduct their business in harmony, and then they depart again in harmony. And so the main aim, meeting there, discussing the business, is the harmony of the group. And whereas, for example, if I remember from, before I ordained, then if, let's say, ministers from the European Union would meet, then often their main purpose is not of the harmony of the group, but they just try to get some advantage for their own country. And so it's a different aim then. Then the more, if there's a group and everyone is just looking for their own advantage, then naturally it will be more and more disharmonious. Yeah, and so if you reflect about that, then you see it's quite easy to see that it's quite disruptive for the unity of a group. And on the other hand, if you share something with someone, it immediately creates a sense of unity or friendliness. Then generosity of the Dhamma, not necessarily only formal Dhamma teachings like this, but also just Dhamma conversation with friends can also be generosity of the Dhamma. And the gift of fearlessness, if you think about it, then obviously if there's a sense of mistrust in a group, or and if they have the feeling that other people in the group might do something harmful to them, it will be disturbing for the unity of the group, and other people don't want to join them because there's not like a good atmosphere there. As well, if there's a group of people in a sense of fearlessness and safety in the group, if they don't have to worry about being harmed by anyone, then the people will like to be there. And so this fearlessness can be on different levels, more like general, for example, that people observe the 5 precepts and abstain from coarser forms of harming. But then also, just as attitude, for example, if you think about it, say, what can you do or say that other people feel safe and at ease in your presence? So it's obviously something that you can practice rather than developing this attitude in terms of your action and your speech. People, don't feel oppressed by you, or they feel safe and at ease when you're there. And what can I do or say that they have a sense of trust or confidence towards me? So if you act in this way, then this is a basis that many people will like to be together with you and feel a sense of harmony and like to continue their relationship. Yeah, because if you're in the presence of a person where you don't have to defend yourself, or you don't have to be on guard, that's what will this person say next, or what will this person do next, you feel you actually like to be together with this person or with this group of people. Feel that the person wouldn't harm you and has your own benefit in mind. So that's the first quality, the generosity, material generosity, the Dhamma generosity, or the generosity of fearlessness. And then the second one is called peyyavajja in Pali, translated as endearing speech or friendly speech. So piya means dear, like a dear person, and vajja means speech. So it's the opposite of harsh speech. And the Buddha describes it in the suttas like this. He speaks words that are gentle, pleasing to the ear, lovable, go to the heart, are courteous, desired by many, and agreeable to many. And so the Buddha says in another sutta that speech is like honey. And obviously if you talk with people in a way which is unfriendly, then most people will feel less inclined to associate with you. And so can you train yourself, for example, to say things which another person maybe doesn't want to hear in a friendly way? But it's also good to mention that even the Buddha would sometimes say things to people which would be displeasing to them or unpleasant for them. For example, if a monk has committed a serious offense, then he would talk quite strongly with them, but he would only use it at the right time and when it's beneficial for the other person to convey a sense of the seriousness of the action. Also, the friendly speech should also be true as well. So, for example, not just empty flattering, and the mind state behind the endearing speech, in the sense of having a mindset of kindness or concern for the other person. For example, and not just for the sake of getting an advantage. Not, for example, a car salesman or a real estate agent will also talk very friendly and sweet and polite, with you. But then the reason why it's friendly, he just wants to sell you something. So it's a different kind of friendliness, and you usually also notice then, if you practice the Dhamma for some time and notice some people with metta, then you notice, for example, the difference in the friendliness of a car salesperson or some flight attendant is of different kind of friendliness usually than someone who has developed some loving kindness. Yeah, so if you talk with others in this way, then if you have this genuine friendliness to other people, then other people will enjoy to associate with you and keep together with you, or like a larger group will be harmonious. Another form of talking is also to reflect, how do you talk to yourself? For example, how do you talk to yourself in meditation? And this is also a form of, the internal speech is also a form of talking, of the, in Pali called Vitakka and Vichara. So it's also good to notice that. And and if you talk with yourself in the right way, it can also make the mind less disturbed and lead to samadhi. So the thing that people often use is, for example, for metta meditation, then using some sentences to remind themselves about the quality of metta, or reciting Buddha, or counting the breath. And for example, noticing how to use these sentences in meditation. For example, do you use them more like a hammer or like in a friendly way? Or also general, how is your internal communication in your own mind about yourself? For example, what kind of stories are there in your mind about yourself? And how do you try to encourage yourself, or this type of things? And do you talk with yourself in a friendly way internally, or is it more like harsh and unfriendly? So that's the endearing speech, peyyavajja. Then the third one is called beneficial conduct, in Pali atthacāriya. Can be translated as beneficial conduct or service. Yeah, we can think about various ways of how you can do something beneficial for a person, or do some service for the whole group. Often monasteries attract introverted people, but they also attract people who like to help or do something beneficial often. And some people, they don't like to talk much, and not so much into being together with others, but they maybe just quietly do some service in the background, just helping, and maybe not so much in the public. And so they have this Thai idiom, is any Thai speakers here? No. So they, literally it means you put some gold leaf on the back of a Buddha statue. So usually, if you they have this, traditionally in Buddhist countries, they often gild Buddha statues, and so the people put some gold leaf on the Buddha statues. And then, obviously, most people, they want to have it on the forehead of the Buddha, on the chest, where you can see it. but then some people just put it on the back of the Buddha statue where no one can see it. And so, some people just sort of help in the background, and even though they're not so much into talking much with people or being together with others, just do some service quietly. And the fourth one could be translated as being similar, or similarity, or I could say sameness, samānattatā in Pali. That's at least how I would translate it when I had a look at how this Pali word is used in the discourses. And so how is this quality of similarity, or being similar to someone, leading to attracting and sustaining a large following or unity in a group? Basically it's a sense of unity created by doing things in the same way or having the same quality as the other people in a group. So, and this sense of unity created by being similar can be more based on like external things and superficial things, or on more profound internal qualities. And so maybe some everyday examples, let's say some group of teenagers, and then they're wearing the same style of fashion, listen to the same music, or go to the same clubs, and then they feel some unity because of that, because of they dress in the same style and they go to the same places and so on, feeling some kind of doing something together. Or soldiers and military would also be a everyday example. For example, soldiers, then they wear the same uniform, sort of marching in the same way, sort of saluting to the flag, or singing the national anthem together. And then they feel some kind of unity and similarness, doing the same thing together. So it creates some superficial sense of unity. From reading how the word is used, I would more say that it is that you have something similar or in common with the other person, like either in terms of external things or more internal. And there's also, again, then at the end also the Buddha explains what is the highest of these qualities, and then you can see that it means similarity in terms of having something in common. So I would more translate it. Interestingly, there are quite different translations of these terms, so that you can almost not, if you go by them, they are quite, obscure, and it's not really clear what they're based on. So I just tried to see where is this word used in the suttas, and then trying to, get some impression. Okay, this is what the word actually means. So it makes sense. For example, I also read some book by Samānattatā where he talks about them, but other people. But when I looked at the actual usage in the suttas, I had a different impression than what it actually means. So we can see that also politicians or dictators use this quality of being similar to attract and sustain a large following, more like in the bad sense, unfortunately. Other everyday examples would be different religious groups. For example, they do the same rituals, same ceremonies or chanting, maybe have the same views, and this creates a sense of the group belonging together because they have these things in common. Or in a family as well, you can, if you do things together, sort of sharing the same interests. And so the Buddha also says in some discourses, the same elements come together. So people of good disposition, they come together with other people of good disposition, or people who have then on the other hand, people who have no faith, who are shameless, they sort of associate with other people who are similar. And or another example, with great disciples of the Buddha, then these great disciples would attract other disciples who have a similar quality. So let's say like Venerable Ananda, he had great knowledge of the discourses of the Buddha, then he would attract other disciples who had also this quality. Or Venerable Sariputta had great wisdom, and then he would attract other people to be together with him who also have powerful wisdom. And so because of these similar qualities, if they unite and come together and they like to be together. Also in the monastic order, like monks or nuns, then the Buddha uses this quality of being similar on different levels to create a sense of unity, from more superficial to more profound. For example, wearing the same robes, or the same shaven head, or the same routine, doing things together, or the same chanting. In the Vinaya and the Suttas, the unity of the monastic community is even described as, it's called of one recitation. So they have the same dāna that they recite and the same monastic rules that they recite together. And the external formal criteria for a split in the monastic community is if they recite the monastic rules separately. So he uses this sort of sense of unity, of chanting the same, even as a criteria for the unity of the Sangha, of the monastic community. Yeah, and then, for example, other things like following the same monastic rules, or developing the same virtue, having the same views about the teaching of the Buddha, developing the same Dhamma qualities, like the 4 foundations of mindfulness, Noble Eightfold Path. And then on the highest level, if people have the same Dhamma realization, then that leads to the highest, most profound unity between them. So these are these 4 qualities which, and people like to be together with you, and if there's a group of people, they experience a sense of unity and harmony. Hatthaka also had another interesting quality, and one would usually not expect from a person who attracts many friends and large crowds of people. And so once the Buddha is living in Hatthaka's hometown, and he's praising him in front of the monks. So the Buddha says Hatthaka is possessing 7 wonderful and amazing qualities. He has faith, confidence. He is virtuous. He has a sense of moral shame and moral dread. He's learned about the teaching of the Buddha. He's generous and he's wise. And you should remember Hatthaka as one who possesses these 7 extraordinary qualities. And so then in the morning, a monk who has heard that from the Buddha is going on alms round and visiting Hatthaka. And then when he arrives, he tells him, Hatthaka, the Blessed One, said that you have these 7 amazing qualities. And he tells him about it. And then Hatthaka says, I hope no other lay people were present. And the monk says, no other lay people were present. And then he says, that's good. And so the monk goes back to the Buddha and reports the conversation. And then the Buddha says, that's excellent. This person has also is not ambitious. He doesn't want his inner good qualities to be known by others. So here's another amazing quality that he doesn't want to show off, as we would say. That he has these various good qualities, but then he just actually has this quality of being quiet and not wanting others to know about it. Yeah, so I think most people, they think maybe if you want to attract lots of people, want to have many friends, then you have to attract attention by show them how great you are. But then with Hatthaka it was opposite. That even he was foremost in attracting and sustaining a large following of people. He didn't have any ambition to be famous or a leader, but he just actually wanted to not be known for any special quality. And the Buddha had good reason to praise Hatthaka for his wonderful and amazing qualities, because he was a non-returner and one of the two greatest male disciples of the Buddha. So, for example, a lay person today could be sort of a greater lay disciple or surpass Anathapindika or Visakha, but you wouldn't be able to surpass Hatthaka. At best, one would be able to equal him. As far as I know, there are only 4 short suttas with Hatthaka, and after he passes away, he reappears as Deva in the pure abodes, the Sudavasa realm, and visits the Buddha a last time to pay respects to him. And in the last watch of the night, the young Deva Hatthaka appears in front of the Buddha, illuminating the entire Jeta grove. And he is approaching the Buddha. He wants to stand in front of him, but he's just something like an immeasurable radiance floating in space. And so when he tries to stand in front of the Buddha, it just goes straight through the ground. And then the Buddha tells him he should create a coarse manifestation of himself. So then he assumes a coarser form and stands on the ground and pays respects to the Buddha. And the Buddha asks him, "Do you still teach the same Dhamma teachings that you were teaching when you were a human being?" And Hatthaka says, "Yeah, I still teach the same Dhamma teachings that I was teaching when I was a human being, but I also teach some other teachings that I didn't teach when I was a human." And just like the Buddha, he says, just like the Buddha is surrounded by monks and nuns and lay followers and kings and ministers, so he is now surrounded by other devas, by divine beings. And the other devas come to visit him and they want to hear the Dhamma from him. And then at the end, he says he could never get enough of 3 things. He could never get enough to see the Buddha, he could never get enough to hear the true Dhamma, and he could never get enough to serve the Sangha. So he passed away with this sort of mindset, or with this sort of attitude, always being enthusiastic to visit the Buddha and hearing the teaching from him. Yeah, so about Hatthaka's personal story we know only very little, but we can still develop these 4 qualities of generosity and endearing speech, beneficial conduct and similarness. Then by that, having the sense of harmony or unity with our family, or with parents, or with husband and wife, or children, or at work, or among the people who come to the monastery to practice the Dhamma. And so the Buddha, end of the talk of these 4 qualities, the Buddha says the best and highest forms of the 4 Saṅgaha-vatthu's. What are they? The best generosity is the gift of the Dhamma. the best endearing speech is repeatedly teaching the Dhamma to one who is interested in it and listens to it with eager ears. And the best beneficial conduct is that one encourages a person and establishes this person without faith and confidence. And if he establishes an immoral person in virtue, if you establish a stingy person in generosity, and if you establish an unwise person in wisdom, so this is the highest beneficial conduct. And then the best similarity is that a stream enterer is similar to a stream enterer, and that a once returner is similar like a once returner, and a non-returner is similar like a non-returner, and an arahant, a completely awakened disciple of the Buddha, is equal to an arahant. So this is the highest similarness that you can have, or the most beneficial one. Yeah, so some more like social teaching on Christmas. I thought once in a while I don't give so many talks about group, whatever, teachings for a group or unity and harmony, this type of thing. But yeah, and also this for qualities. I think I never heard a Dhamma talk about them ever, so I thought I can find out something about them, what they are. Yeah, at least at the monasteries where I stayed, they never gave on about them. Mm-hmm. There's some sutras where the Buddha talks about different elements coming together, in the sense that different are similar people. So the ones who are immoral, they find it pleasant to be together with another immoral person, or the one who has a great knowledge about the teaching of the Buddha will find it pleasant to be together with a person who has a similar quality, who knows a lot about the teaching of the Buddha. Or the person of great wisdom will naturally feel inclined to be together with a person of great wisdom, something like that. So there's this group tendency that similar people with similar interests or similar qualities come together. And obviously this is just, I think, natural. You'd say you have some interest, and then you look for similar people who have the same interest, just like whatever kind of hobby or interest you have. Then if you whatever into old-timer cars, then you associate with people who like old-timer cars. Or if you're like a doctor, then you're more inclined to associate with other doctors and get to know them. While someone who is a construction site worker maybe doesn't feel so inclined to associate with lots of doctors, because they're just doing something different and of different way of living or different of culture. So in this sense, or then similar with the qualities of the